Before we begin, I'd like to say a couple of things. The subject of this video likes to copyright strike and remove videos critical of him on the grounds of doxing. He has taken every effort available to him to scrub his online past and all the drama associated with it. Everything I mention in this video is readily available online, and none of it was gathered through illegal means. In any case, I've mirrored the video on a bunch of other sites, so if it ever gets taken down, you can still watch it. Now, this video is on the popular YouTube Shorts creator and Twitch streamer Jason Thor Hall, aka PirateSoftware. Before you think I'm doxing him or something, he has referred to himself by his full name on multiple occasions.
My full name is Jason Thor Hall. My full name is Jason Thor Hall, yeah, my middle name is Thor. My full name is Jason Thor Hall. My name is public, and like everybody knows what it is. It's Jason Thor Hall. And that is very public information because I'm the CEO of a corporation. And that makes it pretty easy to find.
He's very open about who he is and what he's done in the past, at least some of the things he's done in the past. I will be covering a bunch of things, mainly sourced from a website that rhymes with Pee-wee Charms. If you'd like to know more about any of the things that I say in this video, you can just look at the description. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video.
Officer down! Officer down!
Jason Hall likes to call himself a game developer with 20 years of game development experience. He also wants people to think that he's a self-made man who came from nothing to what he is today. But is that really the case? First, let's look at his employment history. The story begins with his father, Joey Ray Hall. Joey Ray landed a job at Blizzard in 1991 as a plumber, back when it was called Silicon and Synapse. Or Silicone and Synapse, I don't know. Here's Jason talking about how his dad landed the job.
My dad was a plumber when he applied at Blizzard. He brought his D&D stuff to work one day, and it was either Alan or Mike saw it on his desk and was like, "What's this?" And he goes, "Oh, it's just my D&D stuff." And they looked through it and they're like, "Why didn't you tell us about this in the interview?" And they hired him. My dad was the cinematic director for Blizzard Entertainment for 23 years.
And here he is gloating about how his dad was the inspiration for the fat gamer character in South Park.
No, my dad didn't inspire the WoW guy from South Park. My dad is the WoW guy from South Park. He was the cinematic director for Blizzard for 23 years. He worked on the episode with Matt and Trey, and they turned him into a character. That's him. Yeah, that's actually him. Yeah. It's not a joke. That's not like a similarity. Like, that's him. This is his apartment. This is him. Even the guy that cosplayed my dad didn't know he was real, but no, he's a real guy.
If you're wondering, this is what his dad looks like today. Likely with the help of his father, Jason got an internship position at Blizzard Entertainment, but soon quit after just 6 months. So he got his start through a personal connection. There's nothing really wrong with that, but there's also nothing wrong with pointing it out. Here's Jason reacting to an article that mentioned he was a Nepo baby.
Yeah, really not a fan of that. Not a fan of that. It's one of those things that I've been trying to fight my entire career. It's one of the things that I've had to argue with people in chat about. It's one of the things that we ban people for here. Anytime people say shit like that, because it's deeply disrespectful and it completely overwrites any of the things that I've done throughout my career as something that is somebody else's success, which they have not been in any possible respect. And it's just rude as fuck. So, what do you say? In the thing, he said it was he called me a Nepo baby. In his article. No, that's dog shit behavior. Really gross.
Now, it's around 2004 when Jason quit Blizzard to find something else to do. It wouldn't be until 2009 that he would return to Blizzard, where his dad was still working as a cinematic director, before moving on to a few other companies until finally creating PirateSoftware around 2016, which is where he is today. What he did between 2004 and 2009 will be covered later on in this video, but Jason describes his work during that period as freelancing. Jason worked for Blizzard from 2009 to 2016. According to him, the first 4 years of that was just QA testing.
How many years were you working at Blizzard? I think you said...
So I started there in 2004. Okay. I was an intern for 6 months. So I left. I went freelance for 5 years, came back in 2009, and stayed there till 2016. And then I left, went to Amazon, and then government after that.
Now, can you really qualify that as game development experience? As a QA tester, you're just testing a game and making sure there's no bugs. Where's the game development in that? So far, we've established that between 2004 and 2013, he wasn't really developing games. So his first 9 years of quote-unquote game development experience really had nothing to do with game development. We have yet to talk about the period between 2004 and 2009, But trust me, he was not developing games during that time. Now, what about the rest of that time? Between 2013 and 2016, he claims to have been doing some heavy-duty work at Blizzard, banning cheaters epic style and being an elite hacker.
As much security stuff as we could, and then like that was reverse
Of
engineering.
course, there's
to go
good
and
reason to
find
doubt
ways
this
detect
because
bots,
his
and,
programming skills are
I
pretty
banned over 1
lackluster,
million accounts
as we shall
during
soon
my
see.
year doing that, which was awesome. I
Damn.
felt pretty damn good.
Ordinarily, I wouldn't comment on someone else's code because we were all at some point amateurs and we're constantly improving, learning better practices and new paradigms. That being said, I don't need to extend that privilege to PirateSoftware since, remember, he allegedly has 20 years of game development experience. In this screenshot, you can see that he stores all of the players' decisions in a global array and has to index into that whenever the gameplay depends on past decisions. Firstly, this is a purely aesthetic point, but this code looks like garbage. Apparently he makes games in GameMaker, which is kind of absurd for somebody with 20 years of game development experience. But whatever, let's just put that aside for now. I'm not familiar with GameMaker, but surely it has some more sane primitives to store game decisions than just using a global array. This strikes me as somebody who only knows the very basics of programming and doesn't have any experience working on object-oriented codebases or any serious game for that matter. Let's just say for some insane reason that you wanted to store a game's state in a giant global array. You would at least want to use an enum instead of referring to every item in the array by its index, which is of course arbitrary. For example, something like this. So that way you have some understanding of what the index really means, and for the code to make sense. Instead, he has to go back and forth between the code and the global array to understand what exactly he's indexing into. Again, if you're not a programmer, the details are not important. It's just that you would expect someone with 20 years of game development experience to have a decent understanding of programming and not be writing such painful code. So we've covered his horrendous code, but we have yet to talk about the games he was coding. This takes us back to 2016, when he quit Blizzard for the second time. He formed PirateSoftware and released an indie title called Champions of Breakfast. He later claimed he made it unpiratable by creating his own novel DRM using Steam achievements.
And if you look at this, we have 160 achievements for it, and all of them are very simple. The way that I did this is quite funny. I tried to find a way so that our game wouldn't get pirated because it'd be easy to pirate it. We knew that you could break Steam DRM very quickly. This is your save file. When you first start the game up, it actually checks what achievements you have, and it unlocks powers based on your achievements. This is actually the save file for the character. So you can't pirate it because you can never use the achievements. It made it unpiratable, which is deeply hilarious to me.
Never mind it was cracked a year later, and it didn't take a year because it was difficult. It's just no one really cared enough to play a shitty indie game, especially not one that looks like this. He looks all smug in the video and pretends he finds it funny, but in reality he just wants to brag to his audience,
Which is deeply hilarious to me.
about how he's such a god-tier programmer. His so-called DRM is not novel at all. In fact, it's lazy, short-sighted, and quite frankly stupid. Here's just a few reasons why it's not that good. Number 1, you're locking your game to a Steam release. You can't release it on your website or GOG or Epic or anywhere else like itch.io. But if you do, then you have to remove the DRM, altogether making the DRM pointless in the first place, because people can just redistribute the non-DRM version. Number 2, not that I care about game preservation, but it's something Redditors are always bringing up, and this DRM measure makes it harder to preserve. But then again, maybe that's a good thing because this game really sucks and nobody should preserve it anyway. Number 3, you can't have multiple save files. And lastly, you can't reset your progress once you finish a playthrough.
This motherfucker is garbage!
So shortly after his first game's release, he started working on a new game called Heartbound, which is a shitty clone of Undertale. If you'd like to see a really good review of this game, watch this video by Shino Narb. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but whatever. It's a really good video and he's pretty based. He even says the N-word in his videos. Oh my god, based! Heartbound was first released in late 2016 in an alpha state, and had a full release date scheduled for 2017. In early 2017, he began a Kickstarter with a goal of raising $5,000, but raised over $19,000. Nearing the end of 2017, he would announce that Heartbound's release date would be pushed back to early to mid 2018 because he wanted to add more stuff to the game. This announcement would be edited months later to read, "We are hoping to fully finish and release Heartbound in 2018 instead of early to mid 2018. And once again, months later, it it would be re-edited to read, Heartbound is launching in early access on Steam in December 2018. As promised, in December 2018, the game was released in early access. But it wouldn't be another 3 years until we heard anything about the game. He tweeted about Heartbound and clarified in the comments that COVID set him back 9 months. Since then, it's been the same old story of him ignoring the development of his shitty game and pretending that it's being actively developed. As of the filming of this video, the game is still in early access and has a rating of mostly negative, which is really bad. If you'd like, you should read the reviews. It's just full of people fed up with Jason and the lack of development of the game. But then again, it's just a shitty Undertale clone, so if you bought it, you kinda deserve what you got. So anyway, basically he's a lazy piece of shit and a liar who puts even Yandere Dev to shame.
Die, cowboy!
Another interesting aspect of PirateSoftware is his voice. Many people allege that he uses some audio software to make his voice deeper. I'm gonna play a side-by-side of him talking in his shorts, as well as him talking in live appearances, and let you decide for yourself.
We have so many tools, so many different methods of doing this, and it's more accessible than any other time. The software and game development category is incredible. You guys should definitely check it out. There's many more creators than just me in there. It's definitely not just me.
Who wants to know the secret for YouTube Shorts? It's one of the strangest things you'll ever see. There's a little checkbox, and that checkbox says, if you want to notify your subs of the upload.
So a lot of what I actually do on stream is trying to get other people into the gaming industry, because it's so hard to enter the gaming industry. It's so hard to get advice of, what can I do to go make games? And
To understand how rough the working conditions were at Blizzard, we worked overtime a ton. The pay was not very good. It was a bad time. So I went to Amazon Game Studio, which is about 4 minutes away from Blizzard.
So we have Champions of Breakfast, which is a twin-stick shooter that we made in 24 days from concept to release on Steam. Blew up. It was really, really awesome.
People have called him out for this, and his explanation for why his voice got so much deeper is that he went through second puberty when he turned 30.
Went back to the doctor. Doctor's like, hey, sometimes in your early 30s, your voice can change as a man, and it's effectively second puberty. This is what I used to sound like. That's what I used to look like to this 5 years ago. Wait for this. This is awful.
My hot dogs are freshly picked. I'm gonna have to peel it. I'm gonna have to peel my hot dog.
Yeah, that was it, dude.
Every good hot dog needs to be peeled.
So apparently he's the first person on Earth to ever go through second puberty. Pretty epic. Whether you believe this explanation is ultimately up to you, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that the same person who wants to build up his image of being some elite hacker with 20 years of game development experience, when he really doesn't, is the same kind of person who would make his voice deeper to seem cooler to his retarded fans. Ultimately, it's a really silly thing to lie about and fake in the first place. There's nothing wrong with sounding like a soy boy cuck. Me personally, I prefer how he sounded before. It just sounds more natural. The deep voice just really hurts my ears. And obviously, you can't control what you're born with. In this life, you just gotta cope with what you're given.
And now we break for an urgent news flash.
Quickly, before I get into the various dramas he's been in, I want to talk about how I first came to know of PirateSoftware. Like many of you, I'm sure, I first found him through a YouTube short. I don't often watch YouTube shorts, but I have on occasion. And every time I scrolled through shorts, I've stumbled upon PirateSoftware. His shorts get millions of views and hundreds of thousands of likes. It's really what brought him a lot of his current fame and viewership.
We had been producing content on YouTube for a long time, and we found that YouTube Shorts were doing really well. And I kind of looked at the way that the market was going and looked at what YouTube was doing. And YouTube was pushing all of its effort into YouTube Shorts. So my plan was to go from about 10,000 subscribers to about 15,000 by the end of the year. My plan was release a short every day at exactly noon every day, noon PST. The reason I did that is because that is the lunch break time period for all of the companies down the West Coast of the United States. And that is mostly tech companies, which is, I produce a lot of tech content. So that's the exact moment they look at their phone. And that's right when the algo picks it up. And then they spread it to regional offices. This was the plan. And I was like, maybe we'll get a couple thousand subscribers. There was a lot more than that. And it did it way more fantastic. And now it's everywhere. And now every time I open up YouTube, I see myself like 5 times at the bottom. It's great.
The only problem is, his shorts suck. They're usually him explaining some pointless thing while Jason has a smug look on his face, like he's the smartest guy ever, who basically showed you the coolest thing you've ever seen. And basically you're an idiot and he's amazing. Anyone can do this, even me. Here, watch.
Oopsie whoopsie.
For someone who hasn't been in the limelight for that long, Jason Hall, aka PirateSoftware, has had his fair share of controversies. I'm sure many of you are aware of the World of Warcraft Roach Incident that happened recently, which showed the world the kind of person he really is. But trust me when I say there's much, much more. They all stem from his inability to take criticism and recognize that he can be wrong sometimes.
I don't need this.
First off, this is just a general habit of Jason that I'd like to point out to you. Whenever a negative video is made on Jason, he will take it down on the grounds of doxing, copyright infringement, or basically no reason at all. There are several videos, including the review of his game Heartbound that I mentioned earlier, which have all been taken down by Jason. Some videos are from channels with mere hundreds of subscribers. I've watched many of them and they don't really have anything that can be classified as doxing or anything like that, because like you saw in the earlier clips, he's very open about himself and his family and who he is. What I find funny is Jason covered some retarded VTuber who got her channel taken down, and in that video he said this.
And I think this is a very clear pathway for abuse on a platform like YouTube, and it needs to be resolved in some way. Because this could be used against smaller creators that don't have that kind of a platform, and there's nothing anyone would be able to do to save them.
Which I find deeply hilarious.
Which is deeply hilarious to me.
Some videos mention his previous internet personality, which we'll cover at the end of this video. But even that isn't doxing if it's just stuff you voluntarily put up on the internet. Just because you've tried your best to scrub it off the internet doesn't mean it's doxing if somebody draws attention to it. At the end of the day, these videos are just legitimate criticism and commentary, but Jason isn't happy about that. He hates when people criticize him and point out his flaws. He wants to have the final say on how people discuss him online, and anyone that isn't doing tricks on it is automatically a jealous hater who deserves to be struck down. There's a particularly egregious incident of Jason DMCAing somebody that I'll talk about later, and I'll delve more into his incessant need to be a victim as well. I just wanted to give you a brief look at the kinds of actions he takes towards people who criticize him.
Let's take these scumbags out.
In April of this year, the servers of the video game The Crew were taken down after 10 years of service. The sequel to the game has already been out for 6 years, and it only made sense that the earlier title would be decommissioned eventually. This brought on a controversy, however, when gamers were unhappy with the prospect of a game publisher just taking down the servers to a live service game whenever they wanted, and basically leaving the game in a non-functional state. There was also further controversy when people dug into the EULAs of many games and realized that live service games were not sold to customers, but actually licensed to them, so that license could be revoked at any time. People were understandably unhappy with this idea and made their voices heard. A prominent voice in this discussion was a YouTuber by the name Ross Scott. He started a petition in the EU to pass some sort of legislation to prevent a repeat of what happened to The Crew, and he called this effort #StopKillingGames. Here's the first sentence of their objective statement. This initiative calls to require publishers that sell or license video games to consumers in the European Union to leave said games in a functional, playable state. Now, most people recognize that there was something wrong with game publishers selling licenses and having the right to revoke them whenever they wanted, but nobody was really sure about what should be done about it. Some people were suggesting that game publishers should have to release the server-side infrastructure so that people can host their own private servers. Others suggested that there should be some better protections for customers surrounding these game licenses. But in the midst of all this discussion, PirateSoftware, drawing on his 20 years of game development experience, released 2 videos on why StopKillingGames was a bad idea. And yes, he mentioned that he had 20 years of game development experience in the first 10 minutes of that video. It was painfully obvious that he was ill-equipped to discuss this topic, since he doesn't actually have 20 years of game development experience. He didn't understand that you could have private servers run by third parties, so he concluded that StopKillingGames would kill all live service games. People obviously clowned on him for this and called him an idiot who knew nothing about video games.
Why am I still getting hate?
This is Jason's most recent and biggest controversy yet. It exposed who Jason really was, and a lot of streamers turned on him once they knew. The controversy surrounds a bunch of MMORPG games, which I don't play and I know nothing about, so I've mostly relied on WoW streamers and people who play the game to make sense of this. To set the stage, a bunch of popular streamers were playing hardcore World of Warcraft, which just means that your character has only one life, so if you die, your character is gone forever. You want to level up your character to the max level of 60, which takes somewhere around 150 to 200 hours. So if your character dies, it's kind of a big deal. Jason was in a guild with other Twitch streamers and he was playing a mage character. The way World of Warcraft works is that if you get too close to a mob, you aggravate them and they begin attacking you. So a surefire way of getting your character killed is aggravating more mobs than your guild can handle. That being said, if a guild finds themselves in that situation, they can try to exit in a controlled way, making sure as many guild members get out safely. A guild member who just runs away is called a roach. When Jason and his guild found themselves in a similar situation, you could hear a fellow guild member shout, "Run, run, run," meaning they had to retreat. Like I said, there are better ways of dealing with this than just having everyone run for their lives. More specifically, a mage, which was what Jason was playing, can use crowd control spells to alleviate pressure from the mobs. But no, as soon as Jason heard the call to run, he ran straight for the exit, leaving his entire guild behind, which ultimately led to 2 players dying. In the clip, he makes the excuse of not having any mana, but other players have pointed out that he had mana gems which replenish your mana. Also in this clip, you can hear a guild member confront Jason on why he was running and not helping the guild.
Pirate, why are you walking, bro?
What are you talking about? Why am I walking? Look at my mana.
This is savageable. Come on, man.
The same guild member, Yamato, later tried to get Jason to take some accountability for what happened, but Jason just left the call.
Go roll a mage and do it.
You were the first person that ran away and didn't even look back. Literally.
This is the second time. This
you
is
could
the
have at least said like the boss.
You're just gonna talk over me? Is that what we're doing now?
Well,
we just gonna talk over me? Is that all? Is that all we're doing?
I'm giving you my points.
Okay. You done giving your point? You good?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. You go roll a mage then. See you around.
It was at this point that Jason was kicked off the guild by Soda Poppin', the leader of the guild, and Jason started playing the victim. He banned thousands of people from his chat, even people who just mentioned mana gems or made jokes about him roaching.
It was 2,975 bans and 1,357 bans on process, and Kronos was told to kill himself 20 times. Great people in there.
And cried on Twitter about a bunch of death threats he received. Now, this is obviously just my opinion, but fear-mongering around death threats is so overblown these days. Some 12-year-old can send the letters KYS to an internet soy-lebrity, and they'll go ballistic and cry about it online for sympathy points. Like, just think about it. If somebody really wanted to kill you, why would he send you an online message first? If anything, death threats are pretty funny. You should be able to tell someone to watch his back, or write out a detailed essay on how you're gonna grape them and hang them up on your Christmas tree. Free speech and all that. Anyway, back to the Roach incident. People started to sift through his other mishaps and found 2 other incidents where he did the very same thing. In one instance, he just ran away and even used spells to be able to run away faster. In another instance, he was playing a game called Ashes of Creation, where he accidentally aggroed a boss and got a large chunk of his guild killed.
Sabu got left behind? Sabu is not paying attention. Sabu. God damn it, guys. So one of you pulled the ocular. Why? Now half the raid is dead. Was there a reason for that?
It didn't help that he immediately blamed it on everyone else and vowed to ban the person when he found out who it was. There were also a ton of other clips floating around showing just how shitty of a person he was, like this clip of him cyberbullying a poor black man for not knowing how to play the game.
You basically have to evocate to get your mana back for the next pull. Ugh.
Remind me, sorry, I don't play the game, so I forgot. If you remind me, I can help you out real quick.
Yeah, it's too bad I'm the only mage in the party. You're right, Chad. If only someone else would cast Arcana. If only.
So when this Roach incident was in full swing, a small YouTuber and indie game developer thought it would be funny to add PirateSoftware to his game. His game was about streamers, so it only made sense. He added a few voice lines and put a cockroach with a mage's hat in the game and uploaded a video of it on YouTube and Reddit. Importantly, he only made this in a local build of the game and didn't release it in an update to the game on Steam. So this was just a video, it wasn't actually in the game. But soon after uploading a video of it, PirateSoftware DMCA'd his game on Steam, even though the game had nothing of PirateSoftware in it. Again, this shouldn't be surprising when you realize the kind of person that he is. but it's kind of ridiculous that he falsely DMCA'd a Steam game for using a handful of voice lines of him. After all, this is the guy who prides himself on telling others to make games because it's so easy. Go out and make games, guys. Except if it offends me, I'll take it down. In his Stop Killing Games video, he plays parts of Ross's video, which is copyright infringement, but I'm sure if Ross copyright struck his channel, he would take it to Twitter and seethe about it. It's obvious to everyone that Jason just takes things down that he doesn't like, and it's got really nothing to do with copyright. Finally, what we've all been waiting for. I alluded early on in the video to a period between 2004 and 2009 where Jason claimed he was doing freelance work, but he conveniently neglects to say what sort of freelance work he was working on. Well, it turns out that Jason had another persona in Second Life that went by the name Maldavius Figtree. For reasons we'll get into, he tried his very best to scrub any info on this off the internet. That being said, he hasn't entirely gotten rid of his previous username, because sometimes he uses the name Maldavius in the games that he plays. So what's the big deal with this Maldavius Figtree character anyhow? Well, Maldavius Figtree owned a company called Darksphere Creations, and through it he would sell Second Life avatars. These weren't just any avatars, they were furry avatars. And did I mention he's a furry? Here's an avatar of his ferret persona, and here's art of his persona. He was also in a gay relationship with another furry. His gay furry lover was Brady Shea Remmel, who is now an artist for Jason. Here's some ferret art of his. I say his, but honestly I'm not even sure what this person is. The same goes for Jason. Jason could be a trans woman for all we know. Okay, so we've established that Jason Hall is a gay furry and possibly trans. How can this possibly get worse? Well, let's get back to Jason's Darksphere Creations company, the company he used to sell Second Life furry avatars. This was not a solo venture. He had employees and business partners. One such employee was Wingless Emoto, who now goes by Mainface, and is female to male transgender. At the time of her employment, she was 16 or 17, and Jason was 19 or 20. With this background out of the way, let's take a look at an article that was published in 2008 titled A Dark Night for Darksphere. Maldavius Figtree, notorious for having destroyed builds in the Woodbury University sim last summer, is in the news again this week after his controversial firing of avatar designer Wingless Emoto. According to reliable sources, Figtree held a suspiciously timed staff meeting last Friday morning, a meeting timed for when Wingless Emoto would be asleep and therefore unable to attend. During this meeting, it was determined that the talented avatar creator, Emoto, was earning too much and should therefore be removed from staff. The terms of service for Figtree's company, Darksphere Creations, were then conveniently changed, and Miss Emoto was removed from her position, all before she awoke to the news. Wingless Emoto was also accused of sitting on her ass, despite the fact that she was unable to work for a short period of time due to technical malfunctions. Her remaining avatars and creations continued to sell well throughout this period, generating significant real-life money for the company. Now that Wingless is gone, Maldavius Figtree is continuing to sell her avatars, refuses to return her creations, and is seized paying her the commission they agreed upon. And here's Maldavius Figtree doing fellatio on a furry. Wingless Emoto refuses to be put down by this incident. Others have suggested she form her own company for quite some time, and she sees this new development as an opportunity to do so. Commenting on Figtree, Emoto said, "I always knew he was an ass, but this is just low, even for him." It remains to be seen how well Figtree's Darksphere Creations will weather the storm, particularly if public sentiment is roused and consumer boycotts follow. So apparently there was a falling out between Wingless Emoto and Jason. She was fired and Jason continued to profit off of her work. Those are the allegations at least. The comments are particularly interesting though. I'll read out a few. Maldavius is an ass. Plain and simple. He's the only person that actually manages to make the JLU and the PN combined look like Boy Scouts. He doesn't want people to be more successful than him, and chances are he's putting out his arsenal on Wingless Emoto as we speak to completely ruin her, on SL and outside of SL. Oh god, the faggot drama, it burns. I think you're all forgetting the source of Maldy's butthurt, warehouse rape. Maldy has this uncontrolled desire to get reamed in the ass by other people, like Blizzard warehouse managers and UPS boxes. Is that a picture of Maldy doing a cockmongler imitation? BRB gonna throw up. OMG, this is so funny. He wanted to be my business partner, so I took him in on board. He did approximately 80 minutes of work against my 30 hours and expected to get half the cash. Then when I complained about this, as well as being constantly ignored for 2 weeks, he gives me his, "Do you know how good of a scripter I am? How much I'm worth? I make 8,000 US a month from SL." Speech. Of course, at this stage the alarm bells rang and I quickly hit the delete silence button. It's all a shame really, especially as I had a deadline to meet, and this all reflected badly on me. Still, it's not the first time I've been ripped like this. So many egos on SL. The thing to remember is, if you took SL away from folks like this, they wouldn't have anything else to shake their matchbox of power at. I'm glad to see the rest of the grid waking up to what a cancerous evil there is in Maldavius Figtree. Unmentioned in this article is his participation in the destruction of 6 of my Sims after he brainwashed one of my staff into quitting BNT. The reason he gets away with it? He's the kid of a noted Blizzard programmer who developed StarCraft, and Linden Labs doesn't want to make waves in the gaming industry. That his own dad thinks he's a no-account loser and won't pay for his education because academically he sucks ass doesn't seem to enter into the equation. Many of the people on the grid he has victimized never file abuse reports against him because he has invented this aura that he has all these secret Linden Lab friends who would go after anybody who AR'd him. The fact is, I've been told by persons unnamed, "See Maldi, I can do it too, except this time it's for reals," that Linden Labs doesn't listen to anything that he says and they know what kind of a danger he is, which is why Linden Labs refused to hire him. I now encourage everybody that he's victimized to mass AR this karmic black hole. Evil, lol he's a faggot, and my little lol cow. It's at this point that Maldavius leaves a comment himself, and it's the chat logs of him and Wingless Emoto. Wingless Emoto says, "I made a druid named Peniscock." Maldavius says, "Cool, I ran the company while you sat on your ass." Wingless replies, "Keep up the good work then. I intend to continue sitting on my ass. I'm far too cheap to buy a new tablet right now." Maldavius says, "You're an ass. You really are. You don't give a shit about this anymore, do you? You realize everyone else in this company is telling me to drop your ass right now?" Wingless says, "Did I really in the first place? Money is nice and all, but mostly I build because I like doing it." Maldavius was apparently close to his SL business partner in real life, at least before he banned her from his Sims, destroyed her reputation, and concocted all manner of absolutely unrepeatable lies about her mental health and her status in her profession. I refuse to allow myself to believe these allegations without question, especially when she contacted me asserting that these stories were false. A word to the wise, if Maldavius calls you on Skype, chances are that he has some elaborate lie to tell you that he hopes will destroy your objectivity and impartiality and bring you into his way of thinking. After I began to question this, my estate manager privileges were revoked, allegedly because I was, quote-unquote, never in SL. He banded together with a bunch of his residents and decided that I had, quote-unquote, helped people attack the sim based on who knows what information. Then he delivered the sledgehammer blow. No one likes you. I had seen this before. Maldavius used the same sort of groupthink tactics to sway the weak minds of his furry friends. He used the exact same approach to make some other guy's alt into an enemy of, quote-unquote, his people, as well as his aforementioned business partner, and probably many others. For some reason, his words carry an air of authority, and people tend to believe him. I sold my land cheap and moved to the mainland, as it was obvious that by not being on his team 100%, I'd become the enemy. Then I made a secret group about how much he sucked, primarily for the lulz. He got massively butthurt and deleted me from his friends list, although not after engaging in a hilarious conversation with me that was obviously intended to reconciliate truth and lies in his own mind. Also, if you feel like abuse reporting him, cite this discussion from his Darksphere Creations group chat on January 20th, 2008 regarding Wingless Emoto. The relevant part is the blatant disclosure at the end of the first portion, and he posts the group chat. Maldavius says, "I fired her. She didn't work for 2 months, missed meetings because she was playing WoW and or too lazy to come, and then freaked out when I said that I would be paying her on Fridays instead of point of sale due to tax complications, since I have to report all this income for taxes. Things like this is why she's gone. She's also underage, so I've reported her. I know this because I met her IRL. She lives 2 hours away from me." Anon1 says, "Congratulations, Maldavius Figtree. The only picture of you that SLH has on file is of you sucking a dog cock. Please reconsider your alternative lifestyle." Then somebody with the username Maldavius's dad says, "Even I think my own son is a dipshit, so I figured something like this would happen. Although the dog cock, Timmy, we're gonna have to have a talk when you get home from middle school." And there's much, much more. If you're interested, I link the article in the video description below. For what it's worth, Jason has replied to these allegations. In a Discord message, he said this, Apparently some people believe that I quote-unquote ripped off an underage artist 16 years ago. That artist went by Wingless Emoto at the time and is now known as Memeface on Twitter. They were 17 and I was 19 when all of this went down, and no, we never did anything sexual together. We made avatars in Second Life and our work was really popular. They did all the models and I did all of the programming in LSL. We had a falling out over pay splits and Wingless open sourced our work. They were never fired. They quit on their own and did this on the way out. Tabloids at the time did what tabloids do. They made extreme and idiotic statements. Those tabloids still exist and people are digging them up now. Mame and I made up like 4 to 5 years later. We've been best friends for a very long time. You can reach out to them to confirm any of this. We've actually been talking about having them on stream to stop this tide of idiocy. If you've been engaging in this, you're trying to dig up settled beef that is older than you are. For those that bitched on socials, lashed out at me, or left negative reviews on our work over this, eat shit. I have no respect for you whatsoever. And then he linked to Memeface on Twitter. Now, I've actually reached out to Memeface on Twitter. I sent her this message. Hello, I wanted to ask you about Maldavius Figtree, aka PirateSoftware. There's screenshots circling online suggesting that he, 19, went to your house when you were just 16 to talk or something. Can I ask what happened when he went over to your house? Are you on good terms now? And did you get fired for quote-unquote sitting on your ass all day, like he says? Thanks for reading. She replied, I was 17, so less of an age gap than some people are trying to paint it as. The visit was normal. We sat in the living room and watched TV, played video games, like I would have with any of my local friends. We're on good terms. We have been for a while. And he didn't fire me. I quit because I didn't agree to some changes he made to how I received my payments. At the time, he told people he fired me to like save face or something. I don't know. It made him look way worse. I just went and made new avatars with a different programmer like immediately. So as much as I would like to call him a pedophile because I think it would be hilarious, I don't think he is a pedophile. I don't think much happened. He was young at the time and he was probably new to owning a business. Ultimately, it was just a disagreement between two people over their business and they both parted ways. So he might be a gay for a trans person, but he's not a pedophile, okay? Anyway, that basically sums up the entire video. Like I said, Jason Hall likes to paint himself as this grandiose hacker with 20 years of game development experience. He's been at Blizzard, he's been at Amazon, he's worked for the government. Wow, this guy's epic, dude. But ultimately, he's just a man like anybody else, and he's not really that special. The only compliment I'd give him is that he was pretty smart the way he utilized YouTube Shorts to get famous. So I commend him for that. But other than that, personality-wise, he's not a really good person. I think he makes mistakes like everybody else, but the problem is, he doesn't own up to those mistakes. And instead of recognizing constructive criticism, he just labels it as hatred and dogpiling, which is unfortunate and it probably stands in the way of him ever improving. Either way, that's the video. These are all the dramas and backstory of Jason Thor Hall, aka PirateSoftware. If you'd like to know more, check the video description, and until next time, peace.